In the recent implant tutorial videos, some of you have requested that general units are covered within the tutorials themselves, but given how many of them there are and the range of tactics that they can contribute towards, I figured they warranted their own dedicated subscribe button. And by that I mean video, but subscribe anyway. So what are general units? General units are essentially modules that you can equip to your implants, and just like modules, you can remove them when docked up in a station. Where they differ from the modules, however, is on two fronts. First, they exclusively provide passive effects. That's my dyslexia kicking in right there. Not active ones to click on whilst in space. Noticed how I stated passive effects inside of that convoluted mess of me jumbling up words, not bonuses. That's because, unlike most modules, these little devices come with both positive and negative effects. First and foremost, how do we fit these general units? Well, whilst we are docked up, we head over to the implant screen and select the implant that we want to modify with a general unit and go into it. In this case, I'm just going to select one and unfit it. So we go into the implant and we select a available plus button on the implant's progression tree, or circuit diagram, spider's web. Honestly, I don't know what to call it. Comment below if you like to call this particular screen something different. From here we can select and fit a general unit of our choice. Of course, here I'm just selecting the only one I have available in the current station's hangar. Any general units you apply here will be removed from your inventory until you remove them again in the future and apply them, and they will apply to all ships that you fly as long as this particular implant remains active. Wow, I'm doing a really bad job with the script today, but let's carry on forwards. So now that we know where to fit a general unit, let's get ourselves an example. So bear with me for a moment as I head back to the market screen, and I am going to be looking for the Tracking Computer Range Correction version 2. So let's head down to Implants, General Units, and have a look for the Tracking Computer modification. We want the Range Correction version 2, and that is this one. So as you can see up on screen right now, this little device boosts the tracking computer's optimal range and accuracy fall-off bonuses by 60%. That range boost is humongous, but there's the cost. The tracking computer module that is getting all of these bonuses loses all of its tracking speed bonuses. So why would you make this trade-off? Is gaining that extra 60% range bonus worth losing all of your tracking bonuses? That's where you have to question the scenario that you're fitting out your ship for. If you're heading out to hit relatively stationary targets at a long range, then this would enable you to hit from even further away without even noticing the reduced tracking speed. Conversely, if you're brawling with very small, fast-moving targets, that range bonus will be useless on you, and you'll surely miss that tracking boost that you were getting before. Hell, you'd probably wish that the general unit's attributes were flipped the other way around in that case. And, well, yeah, that's also kind of a thing. You don't get to press a button to flip it all around, but if you head into the market, you'll see that there are general units that are the exact opposite near enough. So once again, if we stay under the tracking computer category in the general units, we will also see that there is a tracking computer tracking correction at the same quality level as the previous example, so version 2.0. We see that this eliminates all of the optimal range and accuracy fall-off bonuses, and instead provides a 60% bonus to the module's tracking speed bonuses, enabling you to brawl with those fast targets to your heart's content. You'll find that each of these general units come in pairs, counterbalancing each other by providing opposing bonuses and penalties. And some, like the tracking computer or tracking disruptor general units, will allow you to pick your poison, whereas others, like shield boosters and armour repairers, allow us to choose between capacitor usage and repair amounts, although among most players the default choice tends to be repair amount for obvious reasons. By now you've probably noticed in the market that there are a fair few general units for the tracking computer in question. Well, every general unit comes in 10 levels of quality, with level 10 general units being the best possible variants. You'll notice that the downsides of each general unit remains the same throughout the ranges levels 1 through to 10. But what does change, however, is the bonus that you receive. I'm just going to bring up a level 10 for an example before I carry on. So I personally tend to settle with level 5 general units in an attempt to keep a healthy in-game wallet. I say attempt here as there's always another tempting spending spree just around the corner, just like how my cat is currently around the corner jumping around and making noises. So yeah, that's going to be fun. So just around the corner where I'm on the script. For example, you'll note that the tracking computer range correction version 2.0 from earlier provided a 60% bonus with an estimated market value of 31 million ISK. So let's bring that up. That was the range correction, and it turns out my script is a little bit out of date because it is now 24 million ISK. But let's carry on. Whereas its level 10 variant, which provides a full 100% bonus, comes in at a whopping apparently over 10 billion ISK. Let's find out. It's currently 9.2 billion ISK, but the proof is in the pudding, it's still there. The higher the quality they are, the more expensive they're going to be. Naturally, comes as part of this game. So now that we know what the general units are, the varying levels of quality that they come in, and that they are used to fine-tune ships for specific circumstances, let's look at the list of general units that are currently available to us in the game. So of course I will collapse this. So we have the heatsink, magnetic field stabilizer, gyro stabilizer, damage control amplifier, ballistic control system, tracking computer, missile guidance computer, omnidirectional tracking link, shield recharge, shield extender, armor damage repairer, plate modification, remote shield recharge, remote armor repairer, capacitor modification, afterburner modification, micro warp drive engine, inertial stabilizer, damage control, sensor dampening, tracking disruption, target painting. I hope you haven't clicked away yet. Guidance disruption, energy Nosferatus, energy neutralizers, remote capacitor transmitter, fighter fire control array, fighter micro warp drive guide, drone navigation computer, general fire control system, and mothership defense module. Yeah, I needed to take a breather in there. There is a lot to get through, a lot. I honestly didn't realise when I was writing the script how many of them there were, never mind how long it would take me to read them. So we're coming up with a practical example for each and every one of these. Could easily result in a 30 to 60 minute video, and that wouldn't even take into account every possible scenario. This video could literally go on forever if I tried. So with it already being one of my longer videos, I decided let's pick up a couple of scenarios and choose our preferred general units from there. So I'll be choosing 3 general units for each of these scenarios. So that is the number of slots that are available with the implant at level 20. So for our first example, you're looking at flying an Arbitrator Covert Ops into Cobalt Edge, looking for some lovely PvP. First up, let's look at the ship's built-in bonuses, which are drones, micro warp drive, signature radius penalty, and tracking disruptor jammer strength. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I will bring that up in game. I'm not very good at reading the script at the same time as actually pressing the in-game buttons, as you've probably learnt by now. So depending upon your fitting, you may or may not have drone low slot modules, because we only have 4 low slots to work with here. So we'll write those general units off for now. It's almost guaranteed, given the micro warp drive bonus, that you're going to be going with the general unit that gives you more speed at the cost of capacitor, which seems like a reasonable trade-off, provided that you're not at risk of capping yourself out, that is. Next up is tracking disruption general units. Here we have to make a decision between cutting the opponent's tracking speed further or their weapons range. Personally here, I would... Jesus Christ. My cat is... I don't know how to explain this, just climbing all over everything to get my attention. Let's try and wrap this video up. Where was I? Ah, yes. Next up is the tracking disruption general units. Here we have to make a decision between cutting the opponent's tracking speed further or their weapons range. Personally here I would opt to cut the opponent's range, as with certain nanocores you can maintain a tackle as far away as 40 kilometers, and drone-based ships are well known for their kiting abilities. So that's 2 units so far, the micro warp drive output boost and the tracking disruption range jamming. That leaves us with one more option. So let's take a look at your fitting. Are you running armour repairers, armour plates, damage controls, energy Nosferatus, capacitor batteries? I would ensure that the third general unit supports whichever one of these is fitted. Personally, I would probably choose to go with the damage control overheating boost, which provides even more resistances when the damage control module is activated, at the cost of a longer cooldown. Our next example, naturally, is going to be a Bolgorn, brawling up close with an active armour tank and pulse crystal implant. So, of course, I need a moment to bring up the Bolgorn in-game, which is a Blood Raider ship. I can remember that. So this time I have chosen to include an implant, so that we can demonstrate how to overcome the implant's own negative trait. This Bolgorn is going to be running pulse lasers with webifiers, energy Nosferatus, an afterburner or micro warp drive, armour repairers, and a tracking computer, among other things. In order to overcome the pulse crystal's sheer capacitor usage, the energy Nosferatus are benefiting from the energy Nosferatu output general unit, harvesting more capacitor at the cost of range. But we've already committed to being in at brawling range, so it doesn't really matter this particular downside that our Nosferatus have a slightly shorter range than normal. Next up, even with our webifiers, we might find that our tracking speeds still aren't good enough to keep up with those pesky frigates, and we need that extra little kick. So we'll bring in the tracking computer's tracking correction general unit. We'll lose a couple of kilometers on our weapon's optimal range, and in turn we'll get much cleaner shots on those small and fast targets. That leaves us with our third and final option. Here, you can choose to get even more repair amount out of your armour repairers, or even more speed out of whichever propulsion module you've chosen. But both options come at the cost of that capacitor. So yeah, that capacitor's already under some serious strain from using the pulse crystal implant. If you're confident that your capacitor is stable enough, then I would recommend bolstering your active tank with the armour repairer output boost. Otherwise, leaving this slot open would be a reasonable choice to make to avoid you running out of capacitor all that much. So those are my 2 examples on how general units can work in conjunction with your ship's fitting, your nanocore and your implant. There are so many possibilities, just like with the ships and modules themselves, but if you want me to give you any more of my ideas on general unit combinations in the future, let me know what you'd like to see in the comment section below, and I'll probably look at covering them in another unscripted format in a future video. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button if this is something you'd like to see, And until the next video, continue to fly casual in New Eden.